of us?
Hi everyone. Welcome to our Parenting Children with Special Needs in a New Reality webinar series. We are at day 8 on our Facebook group, but we have been doing this for about 4 weeks now. We've had a lot of great speakers, and I just want to give you a little bit of a preview of what is coming up in the next 2 days. Tomorrow, we have Dr. Katie Fierson is back again with talking to us about more homeopathic remedies that you can bring into your daily health practices. And then on Friday, Dr. Michael Cohen, different from Rabbi Cohen, who we have here today, he's going to be talking with us about helping children kind of process everything that's going on and how they might be managing their feelings and dealing with their new reality as they come out on the other side. Because I've been talking to a lot of adults who actually had some really significant experiences in war and whatnot as children, and they and it's really made an impact on their mindset and what they're bringing to the world now and to their children during this pandemic. So I'm really excited to start that conversation and continue that next week. So now we will move on to our speaker, our guest of the day, Rabbi Daniel Cohen, and he is the author of What Will They Say About You When You Are Gone? Creating a Life of Legacy. And I will have him introduce a little bit more about himself and let you know what our topic is of the day, and how you can maybe start to think about bringing a little bit more light into your world, into your community, and living more inspired. So Rabbi Cohen, I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. It's nice to be in such a friendly Zoom space. This is great. And welcome, and nice to see Danette and Aileen. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. First, it's important, I think, for all of us to take a moment to offer our prayers for those that need healing during this time. And God willing, all those for whom we are praying will experience a full and speedy recovery very soon. Also to acknowledge all the people in our midst that are helping us during this period of time. A lot of people, whether it's first responders, people simply delivering things to our house. Just again, it's important to express our gratitude to them as well. And thank you again for having me to this forum. I know I'm amidst very holy people. I see you're nodding your head. That's good. You're all people that are smiling inside and out. And I think, the time that we're in right now certainly is a challenging time. But it's a time really that offers an opportunity. I myself, and this is really part of just who I am and why I wrote the book that you mentioned, have all had challenges in life. And my mom passed away from a brain aneurysm when she was 44 years old. I was a college student at the time without a care in the world. I was actually at my mom's parents' house down in Florida, and everything seemed to be fine. Like the world was perfect. And then I got the worst phone call of my life that my mom had a brain aneurysm. She had a second brain aneurysm, and within 48 hours, she passed away. And my entire life was turned upside down. And in those moments, I realized that life was fragile, that things can change in an instant. And then when I got to the same age as my mother, who I always knew was young, but when I got to 44 myself, I began to look at life a little more deeply. To say, am I doing the most that I can with the life that God has given me? And that really led me on this journey of writing a book, which is really reflective of not, I would say, only my own personal experience, but all of us have moments in our life when we experience what I would call an inner earthquake. There are moments when, things are just taken out from beneath us, when life turns upside down. And the question is, in that moment, I think we all begin to count our blessings a little bit more. The premise of the book is you're at a funeral, and as a rabbi, I've done hundreds of them. And you walk out of the funeral and you have a moment when you say to yourself, I hope they speak about me the way they spoke about that individual. Regardless of your faith, in that moment, you realize that you should focus on what is important in life, not on what is only urgent in life. And then you're generally motivated for about 15 minutes until you get an email or you get a text. Then you go back to life as usual until another earthquake happens in your life. And the idea behind the book is really to hopefully challenge people not to wait for that inner earthquake, not to wait for an external crisis to get us to think about what life is all about, but rather to be living our best selves and tap into our highest frequency on a consistent basis. And the book is really one in which I ask people, what is the kind of life that you want to lead? I inspire people, hopefully, to identify what is your best self. How do you want to be remembered is the question. And then I take people on a journey of 7 principles to reverse engineer your lives. So we lead the lives now for how they want to be remembered. And I look at that journey that I've taken in the book as something that I think is very, I would say, timely during the current crisis that we're in right now. There's not a single person, probably in the entire world, whose life hasn't been altered in some way in this period of time. And not only on a global level, but on a personal level. We all go through so many different struggles, spending more time at home, trying to balance life and work, finding faith in places of despair, finding light in places of darkness. And the question for all of us is, number one, can we transform these obstacles? And everybody has obstacles, these things which are shaking us, not only into moments where we dwell in that darkness and say, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed by everything. But how do we turn those moments into moments of opportunity, moments of growth? Do we lament our fate, or do we try to create a new destiny? And how do we develop the resilience during these moments to say, you know what, I'm going to use the silence that I'm experiencing right now, not to think about tomorrow and not to worry about yesterday, but to dig deep inside of me and say, what is the kind of person that I want to be? And how can I grow from this so that actually my life becomes a life that is more purposeful, that is more meaningful, that is more spiritual? You know, as a rabbi, I certainly would vouch that there's no atheist in the foxhole. You know, there are people that will call me up and say, Rabbi, pray for me. And that's in the moment of crisis. And then, you know, I never hear from them. It's not because, God forbid, they died, but it's because now they don't need the rabbi anymore. You know, and the question is, how do we pull that together so we can all be uplifted? And what I want to share with you today is just some thoughts from my heart into yours. I appreciate everybody who's on this call and listening, taking some time out of your day to open up your heart. I don't believe that I'm on this call by accident. Aileen and I go back for thousands of years. We met at Mount Sinai, as we all did, right? Didn't that? Now I got Aileen to give a big smile that way. That's good. But souls connect for a reason. And we're on this call for a reason. And the reason is hopefully to elevate ourselves and each other over the next few minutes that we have together. And I want to draw on an experience that happened to me this past summer. I was with Aileen, which relates, I think, to, you know, an important moment for humanity, but also humanity's ability in the face of suffering to find spirit, and in the face of despair to find hope. Yesterday was Yom HaShoah. It was the Holocaust Memorial Day. And I've known, as everybody in the world knows, of course, about, you know, the fact that 6 million Jews and other millions of people died, but I always saw it actually as history. I didn't see it as something that related to me in the same way until this past summer, when I went on a journey to Poland with Aileen and about 30 plus other people. And as Oskar Schindler sees in the movie, which I thought was brilliant, sometimes we look at history as black and white, but what turned it for him was when he saw a little girl in a red coat. And that made it personal for him. That made it something that he really could learn from. And there was a story that occurred to us, and for me, this is what I want to frame my remarks. When we were in a village outside of a town called Markova, which I'd never heard of before in my life. And we were walking on a beautiful summer day. And as we were walking, the guide didn't tell us where we were going. And we came to a farmhouse. And I had no idea why we were at this farmhouse. But slowly I began to learn that at this farmhouse over 60 years ago, there was something eternal which happened. And at that farmhouse, heaven was brought down to earth in the darkest of places. And I'll tell you in a moment what happened after I tell you kind of the essence of what I would say is something for us to bear in mind, regardless of our faith each and every day. And that's called the secret of the light. The secret of the light is an important mystical idea that goes all the way back to the very beginning of time. It says that when God created the world, the very first thing that he created was light. Vayomer Elohim, God says, let there be light, and there was light. And the mystics say that that light was so powerful, was so strong, that the vessels that were holding this light broke into pieces. And then that light was hidden throughout time, throughout the world, in all corners of the universe, that divine light. And then God creates humanity. Every single human being that is ever created has one sole purpose. The purpose of every human being is to reveal some of that light that was hidden at the very beginning of creation. In every corner of the universe, from the very beginning of time until the very end. And that means when I'm in my home, there's a little bit of light to reveal. That means when I'm having coffee with a friend, there's a little light to reveal. That means when I'm taking a walk, there's some light to reveal. In that moment, for me to reveal that can never, ever be revealed again. And now I really understood more what was happening in that village. In that village, there was a Catholic family that was greeted in the middle of the night by two Jewish families. And these Jewish families were escaping from the Nazis from the town. And they came to this family, the Oma family, and asked if they could find safe refuge in that house. And in that moment, this Catholic family had a choice. Would they welcome these Jewish families in and risk their life? Or would they turn these families away? And for 18 months, this Catholic family risked its life to save these Jewish families. Unfortunately, after 18 months, the Nazis found this Catholic family. They murdered their parents, they murdered the children, and they murdered the Jewish families as well. But when I walked into that village, I then began to understand that in those 18 months, I literally began to get tears as I walked in the village around that town, because I saw this was not just a house. This was a house that was filled with a certain degree of infinite light. And the question for all of us as I share the secret of the light is, how do we in our own lives, in our own spaces and places, stay inspired, not to lose faith, to try to find the hidden light in our own lives inside of us and in our families and in the world around us. And I want to share with you two strategies today about what I call revealing the secret of the light. One is called living inspired, and the other is called discovering your Elijah moment. Living inspired, I see Danette's nodding her head. It's good to get some nods. By the way, I'm just going to digress for a minute. When I was a student in high school, my English teacher says, I really love you because you may not even know what I'm saying, but all you're doing is nodding your head. I'm definitely going to give you an A. I'm giving you an A. Just nod your head. That's good. So look, thanks for nodding your head. The question is, how do we stay attuned? So thanks. How do we stay attuned to that light that was hidden at the very beginning of the universe? So one is called living inspired. And living inspired, to me, really reflects one of the greatest challenges we have today, which is staying present and mindful in the moment right now that we're experiencing. Too many people have Paul McCartney disease and other people have Annie disease. Paul McCartney disease is you ask them how they're doing, and all they could say is, yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. And you ask them how they're doing, they go, I would have, I could have, I should have. They're living in the past. And then you know where I'm going with this. When you ask other people how they're doing, and all they could say is, tomorrow, tomorrow. I wish my kids would get out of here. They're always thinking about the future. But the truth is, in that moment, they're missing the beauty of the eternity that is possible in this present moment. That's all we have, is that particular moment. People have CPA, which is continuous partial attention. And they're missing everything that is experienced right there in front of them. And how do we realize that potential? The truth is, every moment which is fleeting can be eternal. I like to remember the words of a great Hasidic master who said, the day that you're born is the day when God understood and knew the world can't exist without you. The day that you're born is the day that God knows the world can't exist without you. And you know what? Every day we are reborn. We're sitting here right now taking a breath. There's so many thousands of people right now who aren't on their own able to take a single breath. And when I wake up in the morning and I take that breath, I believe, and I believe we all should recognize, God is saying, I believe in you. There's something unique for you to accomplish today in the world that is immediately around you that you can't do tomorrow and that you can't do yesterday, some light that you can reveal. And that was a beautiful lesson that was learned by Jacob in the Bible. Jacob is running away from his brother. Thanks, Aubrey, for nodding your head on that one. Sometimes I say Bible and people go, oh my God, the Bible, but thanks. Okay. Jacob's running away from his brother Esau, and he is, brother wants to kill him. And he goes to sleep and he has a dream. What's the dream that he has? There's a ladder with angels going up and down. Nod your head. Ladder. Good. Ladder with angels going up and down. And he wakes up in the morning and he makes the following declaration. He said, God is in this place and I did not know. Herein is the gate to heaven, and this is the house of God. He learned a valuable lesson. People could have asked him, so what did you do when you were traveling? He would have said, well, I just fell asleep. But he realized that at any moment and any time, you can bring heaven down to earth, and this can be the gate to heaven. When we lead our lives with recognizing that it's possible to create eternity in a minute, when we ask ourselves, as Robert Grudin said, it's a wonderful book called Time and the Art of Living. He said, ask yourself every day, what am I doing today that is worthy of future memory? What am I doing today that is worthy of future memory? How do I want to remember this moment? Then our lives are different. When we're getting a certain degree of, I would say, frustration with people in our home, or we're literally looking at another child or a human being, we say, you know what? How do I want to remember this moment? How do I want to create a little more light in this moment that will uplift those around me and not bring them down? And I learned this lesson many ways, but one was at JFK Airport. Doesn't sound too holy, but it was. At JFK Airport, when the airports were open and people were flying, thank God we're blessed with 6 daughters and a grandson, thank God, and a son-in-law. I have to add that too. He's been hanging out with us now, the whole family, which is a blessing. And all of our daughters, after high school, they go to Israel for the year. So I was taking our second daughter, Michal, to security, and I was struggling with what are the words that I want to share with my daughter before she goes through security. Do you say to her, don't forget to write? If you don't want to talk to her, somebody said, just give her your credit card, then maybe you won't speak to her. What do you do? But then out of the corner of my eye, I saw a father putting his hands on the head of his daughter. And what he was doing was he was giving his daughter a blessing. He was saying that God should watch over you. God should bless you. God should shine his face upon you. And I'll never forget where that moment was. I was grateful that I wasn't looking at my device. And I said, that is what I need to take in at that moment, at that time. I turned to my daughter, Michal, and I gave her that blessing. Then as I was leaving the airport, I said to myself, that feels really good. I want to give that blessing to my daughters every Friday night. It's in the book of Numbers. You don't have to be Jewish to give the blessing. But I had a challenge because my father would only give me the blessing right before the Day of Atonement on Yom Kippur. I didn't want to divert from his tradition. So I called my dad, who got remarried. He lives in Israel now. And I said, I want to give a blessing every Friday night, but I don't want to divert from your custom. So my father, in his infinite humility, said to me, if I had to do it all over again, that's what I would have done. I would have given you a blessing every Friday night. And if you have an opportunity to look your child in the eye or grandchild or call them up and give them a blessing on Friday afternoon, you definitely should do it. So from that one moment in time, I started to give blessings to my daughters. I go oldest to youngest. My wife goes youngest to oldest. Sometimes it's a traffic jam. Most of my daughters don't even live at home anymore. Now they're here, but I'll FaceTime them. I'll call them. I'll give them a blessing. All from that one moment in time of being open to God's presence at the airport. A few days later, I shared the story in the congregation, and a fellow named Maury Rosenbaum emailed me and says, Rabbi, it's not too late for your father to start giving you the blessing. So I called my dad on the phone and I said, look, I'm in my 40s, you're in your 70s. Would you mind starting to give me the blessing? My dad said to me, no, he would love to. And from that moment now in the morning, when my father is in Israel, I call him up on the phone and he says to me, he calls me Donnie. He says, Donnie, I'm giving you a virtual hug because he's 6,000 miles away. He gives me the blessing. And then hours later, I turn to my daughters as well and give them a blessing. All from literally 5 seconds of time when my heart was open. And now the light that has emerged from that moment is eternal. And what really is inspiring to me and also haunting is that I don't know the name of the person who gave that blessing to his daughter. And I can only imagine at the end of his life, he should live and be well. God's going to say, let's look at your life. He's going to go through all the things and God's going to say, remember that time when you gave a blessing to your daughter in JFK airport? And they'll say, yeah. He said, there was a rabbi watching you. And he was inspired, and so many people were inspired to give blessings because of that one moment. And living inspired means creating the ability to be transcendent in a moment when we may instinctually want to get angry, get upset, tune out. Tune into the gift that is right in front of you, and then our lives will be so uplifted and so strong. Just want to share one other story about this, which was actually on CNN. I don't know if many of you saw it, but I was so moved by it. It was a story related to the current crisis when there was a individual who was was a doctor. He was an emergency physician in Brooklyn. And this is what he said. He said, one of my patients today was an old Hasidic lady with COVID pneumonia. And I was desperate to send her home so she wouldn't die in the hospital. But she dropped her blood pressure and we had to keep her there. And then for an hour, her son kept calling me to find out how she was. And I said to the son, she's 100 years old with pneumonia in both lungs. She's not good. Then he wanted to talk to her. And I said, I can't, I'm too busy. He called back minutes later. And I said, listen, your mother's not conscious anymore. And then he called back and said, but I just want to speak to her. Can you please hold the speaker to her ear? I have a prayer. And then the doctor says, I had 10 other things pressing to do, but I stopped what I was doing out of respect for this 100-year-old woman. And I put the cell phone on speakerphone and told him to talk. He started the prayer of the dead and he began to cry and could barely get the words out. I saw that she had numbers tattooed on her arm. He was crying for his mother and he was reciting the Shema, the verses of unity, and it woke up some emotion to me that I had forgotten about. Time slowed down and I felt restored to myself. When he was done, he thanked me and blessed me. And I said thank you to him. Living inspired means understanding that heaven can be brought down to earth at any moment, at any time. I know right now I'm probably past my time and I only shared one strategy with you. What's your timing here?
We have about 6 more minutes. So how fast can you share? If you can do your next strategy in 3 minutes, I can still close out.
Okay, that's perfect. Well, I'll just share this idea that the next one is related to when I say the secret of the light is not only revealing the light within you, but it's understanding that at any moment, in any encounter, we can share that light with somebody else. I'll just share one story. I called it the Elijah moment, but it really hit me. I was getting coffee a number of months ago in Philadelphia. And a guy comes over to me and says, would you mind paying for my dinner? I guess I look like a really generous guy. I said, how about Dunkin' Donuts? He said, how about the Cajun restaurant over there? I said, that's fine. So I went and bought him food at the Cajun restaurant. His name was Sam. And I went over to him and I said, God bless you. And he said to me, God has already blessed me. He sent me you. He sent me you. No encounter is random. Mark Twain said the two most important days of our life are the day when we're born and the day we understand why. There's not a single person who we meet, who we can call, who we can reach out to virtually. When we share our light with somebody else, even just 2 words, how are you doing? I'm thinking about you. That'll not only lift that person, but that will lift us up too. We may not be able to change the world, but discovering your Elijah moment is to reveal the light in the world. Know that if we can change the world of one person, we've lit a little candle, and God willing, the world to become a much brighter place. So that's my blessing to everyone here. Remember the secret of the light. In every hour of every day, that light is hidden. We're here to heal the brokenness, bring a little more healing and hope in places of despair. And God willing, each and every one of us will light up the world and make it a better place.
Thank you so much. I think there's a lot of opportunity, hopefully, through this webinar, through all the people that I've met, even just trying to coordinate this webinar, and the parents that have reached out that we're getting sometimes so caught up in our strategies and our planning and how do we attack this that sometimes you do, like you said, you forget to be present, you forget to look around and listen to the opportunities and the things that your children are telling you, or the little moments that may never have happened if you hadn't been stuck at home with your children, because you were so busy running from one activity to another, or just so caught up in the to-dos of life, like you said, that you're either in the to-dos or you're in your phone, but are you really kind of present and taking things in? So panelists, you probably have some things you want to say.
First of all, thank you, Rabbi, very much. That was beautiful. And I just wanted to say that, like, while listening to you, I was thinking about like how we have the opportunity right now to be the best version of ourselves with everything that we have available to us. There might be a lot of dark if we want to look at the news and look at all these different things, but like even these trainings that we're doing with the webinar and all, and what you've said and everything, there's just a lot of resources out there for us to be the light.
Thank you. Actually, I'm happy to offer you, and I can send it to you, Aubrey, which I'm doing now, just giving people like a PDF of the first chapter of the book, which is an opportunity for people to dig down deep a little bit during this time. So I can send that to you, and happy for you to forward it to people.
Sure, that's fantastic. We're definitely posting and sending out messages to everyone who's participating. So that'd be great. I think, and I think the other important thing that you said is, there's a lot of times that you don't even know who's watching and who you're impacting and who you're inspiring. And I had an experience also of someone who reached out to me that I didn't know was watching me many, many years ago when I was at another clinic, and then has since become, we become more friendly, and I would say even, friends just during this pandemic. And like I said, she shared a memory with me that I didn't even know that I had that moment of impact in her life, and made an impression that I did in that day. So you really never know.
Great.
And that's such an important thing to keep in mind, that it's not just your modeling for your children. It is even just kind of putting yourself out there and being a light in general, because if someone is watching, maybe they really needed you in that moment.
No, thank you. That inspires me.
So thank you everyone who came to the webinar today. We had the most live engagements ever. So congratulations. You got a lot of people hanging on your words, and hopefully, we've sent a little inspiration and light out in the world today. We'll be back tomorrow with, like I said, we'll be talking homeopathy, and Friday we'll be talking about helping your children, process through this new reality. So thank you, Rabbi Cohen, for coming today. We're so glad to have had you come and speak. And we will, I'm sure we'll be connected in the community in the future. So,
Sounds good. Have a great day. Blessings,
you
everybody.
so
Thank
much.
you.
bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. Bye-bye.